Today we're doing a bit of classic cooking. Sounds complicated, but it's really super easy. Today we're making the absolute best cut of beef for sure. You'll find out what that is right now in this video. Welcome to Kali Cooks. The beef tenderloin center cut. Double piece of beef tenderloin without sinew, without fat, pure best meat. How that works, as I said, that's why you're here on my channel. To go with that, we're making fresh green beans. And not just any way, but we're making bacon-wrapped green beans, little butter, and a bit of thyme. We need the oil for searing. And what I'm still missing in this dish is a bit of color. That's why we're adding the tomatoes to the pan. Let's start with the meat because it needs to be cooked slowly. The pan should already be hot. And we're just going to put this really wonderful piece of beef tenderloin right in there. And I'm going to flip it over. It still has a few fat marbles on the inside. Please don't cut that off because the meat is so lean. We're actually happy about that little bit of fat. And on the side, we're going to place it in the pan and sear it all around until it's nice and golden brown. While the beef tenderloin is searing, we can finish prepping the green beans. Here, on the left and right, this little thread here, this one. This little stem has to go because it's no fun to eat. And I've already got the water heating up, Carmen. You can go ahead and film over here. I've already warmed up some water. It's about to reach a boil. There's a little salt in there. And in there, we want to blanch the green beans now. That means we want to pre-cook them, because these little beans like to be a bit par-cooked. They need flavor, and there's already salt in the water. Just bring it to a quick boil. How do we find out when they're just right? It's simple. Just take one out and taste it. Let's take a look at the meat, how it looks here. I'm going to turn this towards you. Oh, wow. Well, my mouth is already watering again. In the small pan, we're going to add a piece of butter. That can start melting because we're going to toss the beans in there shortly in a garlic butter with a bit of thyme. So the beans are starting to boil, and I'm even searing the edges of my beef tenderloin. Because we all know those roasting flavors, especially with a fillet like this, are just delicious. And into our melted butter, we're going to add the garlic now, so it starts to release its aroma a bit. Onions just a tiny moment later, and then we've already prepared the base for our beans. So the garlic is starting to smell good, and we don't want to let it burn. To prevent it from burning, add the moist onion. That will deglaze everything for us, and we can give it a little toss. Delicious. Look, the garlic has a very light color. This brings out a bit of sweetness in the garlic. I really like that. A little salt, not too much, because we've got bacon coming up soon. But pepper. And then we can go ahead and add our thyme in there. And we're just going to take that off the heat now. It can cool down a bit because the next step is coming up soon. Our beef tenderloin is seared on all sides. I've already turned the pan down to the lowest setting because we're going to do this using the low temperature method. That means we're going to put it in the oven at about 85 degrees now, so we can really season it with plenty of pepper and salt on all sides now, because the pepper can't burn anymore. Carmen, doesn't that look absolutely beautiful? So it's clear, dear viewers, that Carmen and I, we love food. But we don't have a piece of meat like this in the pan every day. That's just for very special occasions. The tenderloin is seasoned, and the beans need to be just as good. And I'm just going to toss my tomatoes straight to the pan like that. They're going to burst, melt in there, and then we can season them again. And we're putting the pan in the oven at 85 degrees, the convection setting. The nice thing is we can remove the handle, and our core thermometer, which is really, really important for me, I'm going to stick right into the center, exactly in the middle. And we want to cook our beef tenderloin to 22.7. It's just dropping a bit. We don't want it to go up to 60 degrees. Let me turn the light on for you, Carmen. We want to cook our beef tenderloin to 53 degrees in the center. One more time, the setting is 85 degrees on convection. The slower, the better. Let's take a look at the beans. Let's grab one, as I said, hot, quick, cold water. That's the best way to try it. How else are you going to find out? You cook them as long as you want. One has to be sacrificed. And the beans, so they don't overcook, we're putting them in ice water. I also have some ice cubes in there. And now the cooking process is completely stopped. Shocking, yes. So the bean keeps its color so that the cooking stops. But please don't leave them sitting in the water because colder than cold just doesn't work. The water needs to be drained again. Let's continue with our bundles of beans. We're going to put a nice portion of beans, a slice of bacon. They've been cooked in lightly salted water. And we also have our thyme, garlic cloves, and onion butter. We can turn them in there. And still, I always like to add a little pepper on top, because nothing is worse than when a little bean tastes like nothing. I don't need salt, because the bacon is taking care of that job now. Keep everything a bit tight, and we're just going to turn it once. So that looks pretty good already. And we're just going to place that on our thyme, garlic, butter. Our beef tenderloin won't take much longer. It's now at 47 degrees in the center in the oven, and our little beans want to experience a bit of warmth now. And now we're just going to gently turn them in our thyme butter. And so we're sneaking them in here slowly so they get really nice and hot. Our core thermometer has gone off. And for those who don't have one, it's taken about half an hour now. Now let's carefully take the needle out. And look, when you touch it here and there's a bit of tension, that's actually a good sign. We're taking the beef tenderloin out now. It really looks absolutely fantastic. So we're taking the beef tenderloin out now, and I'm putting the beef tenderloin back in the oven. And I set the oven to about 60, 70 degrees. I'll even leave the door a bit open so it can rest here. It can at least stay in here for half an hour. It's getting better instead of worse. For our tomatoes, I'm adding just a tiny splash of balsamic vinegar on top. The sweetness and acidity of the balsamic vinegar is just perfect. Fresh basil on top. Let's season it. And the tomatoes are now sitting here in the meat juices. Side dish to our beef tenderloin that practically made itself. Now let's cut into it. And normally I always advocate for cutting meat at an angle. With Chateaubriand, it's a bit different. I just cut straight down. And now comes the moment that you just can't fake. Just take a look at this beef tenderloin. Perfectly pink all the way through. I recommend cutting this tenderloin into 6 slices, because then we can serve 2 slices first and the third as a follow-up. Where are we putting the good meat use in? I have a slate plate here that I've already warmed up a bit, and we just place the meat right on top. I always turn the last slice over. Just take a look at this. We're adding our balsamic tomatoes as well. Beef tenderloin center cut, or Chateaubriand, with balsamic tomatoes and green bean bundles. The meat is so tender I can feel it when I cut it. I can feel it when I press it with my tongue. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. See you soon, your Kala.